Now, how about drums? An instrument everybody loves.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. I'm your host, Wyatt Matters. I hope everyone is doing well on this Sunday afternoon. Please let me know if my sound's coming through okay. Please let me know whether it sounds distorted. Put a one in the chat if everything's coming through clearly and there's no problems. See you. Official Jesse McCorkin in the chat. How's it going? May it begin. Oh man. Do you know what? To be fair, do you know it's actually going to be a very, very, very calm live stream, I think, at least. That's how I want it to be. So Sunday afternoon or Sundays just in general, usually should be calm. I don't know if it's just me, maybe just my age showing, but you know, when I was growing up, Sundays used to be a real what they call day of rest. So man, I couldn't even play like video games, any games. Sundays used to be that day where you couldn't do really anything. I couldn't go out to play. I couldn't do any of that kind of stuff. And Sundays, pretty much most things used to be shut down, except for like regular like Asian stores or whatnot. I suppose even on Christmas Day, but except for real, certain stores, everything used to just be quiet and shut down on Sundays. But now to see Sundays is just every other day. But I'm gonna try and keep it as a normal Sunday, which is just like a calm day. It's not gonna be like a very long stream, which is gonna go on for hours and hours. Well, at least that's not my intention. So if it does drag on a little bit, I apologize, but it's just really gonna be a nice calm one because it's a Sunday. It's the day. Technically, it's the first day of the week. There's another thing as well. People have to realize Sunday is actually the first day of the week. But we obviously use it as the last day of the week, but it's the last day of the rest week before it's the first day of the working week. So I'm gonna try and make sure it's all nice and calm because I know how it is the day before Monday. It's like here we go again. So it is what it is. But yeah, I hope everyone's doing well. Please make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe if you are new. So for all my new viewers who are watching now and on the playback, please make sure you hit that like button and hit that subscribe button in particular. Um, but before I sort of get into it, because it's this live stream is really just going to be it's not really one particular topic. There are more topics which are more important, I think, but it's just really a roundup, if you like. But before I get to that, I just wanted to sort of almost pay my respect because today, if people don't know, which they should do, and if they don't, let me just tell you anyway, it's Remembrance Sunday. So Remembrance Day technically was on the 11th, which was a few days ago, but today is Remembrance Sunday. Now, Remembrance Sunday is where we observe usually a minute silent at 11 a.m. for those people who, gave up their lives to fight for their freedoms. That's exactly why we honor it. We celebrate it every single year. You see all the pictures and everything. I saw people coming outside observing it, just obviously, it's still under that silly kind of rules where everyone's kind of half locked down, not locked down. But yeah, today is a day of remembrance in which we remember the people who gave up their lives. And the thing is, people try and turn it into some sort of um, point scoring system. And at the end of the day, I'm going to say this: regardless of what took place in the wars that were fought, the most important thing for me are the soldiers who died. Because at the end of the day, if we really, really want to get into it, the soldiers aren't the ones who decide whether they go into war or not. They're the ones who are forced to. And especially back in those days, these were a lot of them were young boys who hadn't done anything to anyone. These guys weren't caring about what was going on halfway around the world, or at least think about it. Back in the day, before we had all these cars, before we had the globalization of the world, pretty much you were ring fenced to whatever area that you were born into. Even like 100 miles north, south, east, or west would feel like a complete another continent. That's how much the world was separated. And these are some of these young kids, like 16 years old, because these were drafted up. They had to go to war to fight for a battle, which I'm pretty sure they didn't want to do. I'm pretty sure they didn't really care what was going on too much. But again, they did it because a lot of times they were forced to, but they believed in, guess what? We wanted our freedoms, and fair play to them. So today, we honor those who have laid their lives down for us. Because at the end of the day, we can say a lot of things about a lot of things, but one thing which I will always honor and respect are people who laid their lives down for us. Because again, they didn't have a choice, especially not in those days. Nowadays it's a bit more different. Nowadays it's like people have a choice as to whether they want to go into the army and therefore fight these wars. And even now the wars are nowhere near the same like they were back in the day. Obviously, you have drones and all this fantastic technology, which means you don't really have to even be within 100 feet of the war zone. You can exact so much damage. Whereas beforehand, now it was a lot more different. So yeah, Remembrance Sunday, Remembrance Day. So for sure, honor and respect to all those people who laid laid down their lives, and obviously people who still are here. There are a few of them that may be here, that are here, shall I say, who go through all the stresses that they do. So yeah, I want to make sure I get that out of the way and pay my respects that it deserves. But on to the live stream. And again, I'm hoping this is gonna be a nice chill live stream at all. So it ain't gonna be nothing too crazy. But I kind of really wanted to have a little bit of roundup as some of the things which I've been seeing and some of the just interesting things which kind of just reminds me a bit of we talk about how equality, we talk about all this kind of other stuff, and then you realize this society has always been based on, and I think a lot of it is due to the residual effect of the monarchy, the kings, the queens, the whole know your place. But one of the things I wanted to just talk about, and I did a poll on my actual community tab in which I was asking the question about should MPs have a second job? Because one of the things that have come out from this particular government is a lot of them, a hell of a lot of them. I think it was actually let me actually get this up. So what I'm gonna do, let me get this up in a second. So let me do this. Let me do this. Let me do this. All right. So as per the Guardian, so it's supposed to be a more reputable paper, but it's all over the news. So at least a quarter of Tory MPs have second jobs earning over 4 million a year. So that's more than 90 Tory members. They do pay work on the side compared to very few Labour politicians. So also that's a good piece of context there to say that it's not when we talk about the government, we have to be kind of a bit more specific here. And I think the article reads when they say few Labour, I mean a few. So more than a quarter of Tory MPs have second jobs whose activities range from gambling to private healthcare, making more than 4 million extra earnings a year. And if you look at here, there's more than 90 out of 360 have extra jobs compared with 3 from Labour. So think about this. 90 out of 360 in comparison to 3 from Labour. And I'm assuming they haven't got the majority of seats in Parliament, but you can imagine it's about 200 or something odd seats that Labour have. So you can just imagine the percentage difference. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this is just my opinion, because a lot of people, when they voted, they said no, they don't want to see MPs having second jobs. And I'm going to say this. For me, one thing which I do not like about us in the UK is that we're kind of opposed to upward movement. Now, I only have a problem depending what activity that they undertake. So if they have a job which is clearly compromises their day-to-day activities as an MP, which is to be impartial, which is to serve the people, then yes, I have a problem with that. So there's people who have vested interested in not only gambling, healthcare was one of them. I'm like, hold on a second. There's some people who work who, let's be honest, the Conservatives, this is why a lot of these things, when it comes to the lockdown, when it comes to the policies that are made, people always say, oh, it's political. I'm like, I agree with you, because if you look at the vested interest that a lot of these MPs have, they want these things to take place because they can reap the benefits. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, I think it was a few months, where there was uncovering the PPE scandal, where it was almost like an inside job in terms of the contractors. So I'm just like, the problem I have right now, and this is what I really have, and this is why I'm going to say this: there's no way near I can even vote for the Conservatives next turn round, because the Conservatives have shown themselves. They've been in charge since 2010. Let's be real. I mean, 2010 it was Conservatives and Lib Dems as a sort of a joint partnership, but it was really a Conservative majority parliament. Since it's been 11 years, and it's going to be like 14 years, and all the BS that has undertaken since that stage, I don't know why people would still want to vote for Conservatives. Now, I know people say, well, hold on a second. Well, it's the alternative. What's the alternative? The alternative is Labour. I'm like this. Labour are messing up on themselves as well. Labour are not a great opposition, but you know what? I cannot vote for Conservatives. So that's just me. I can't do it. I mean, I've seen all these scandals, everything that's been going on, and also the fact that Boris Johnson, the leader in charge, basically has almost said nothing. He's almost said, you know what, whatever. He's basically refused to address a lot of these situations, and basically said, in other words, he does not care. And I'm thinking to myself, had this been Labour, had Labour had been in this situation now, where they had found their MPs and their scandals, I'm telling you, they would be going crazy right now. But again, it is what it is. The problem is right now is there's not really a great opposition, but I can't vote for Conservatives. I can't do it. So that's just me. But when I saw this news story, I mean, part of me thought, it's just how it is, isn't it? Let's be honest. when it comes to what happens over here in the society, a lot of it is a case of not what you know, it's who you know. And because these guys are obviously with the government, they're in bed with all this kind of other stuff. It's just a case of, look, this is how the game is played. So do you know when I hear a lot of backlash about, oh, you know, you guys want forced diversity, you want forced this, you want forced that. Do you know what? Sometimes part of me agrees with that situation. Like, you know, we should be not wanting all this forced extra stuff. We're overrepresented in areas, but part of me is like this. You know what? When you look at situations like that, we look at news stories like this. When you look at the MPs, where they come from, the schools that they go from. When you look at even the prime ministers, again, all come from Eton, all come from very, very prestigious families. When you look at how it works, sometimes I'm like this, I don't even care anymore. Seriously, there are days where I'm like this, I don't even care. If that's the game to be played, then that's the game that's to be played. Because at the end of the day, when we talk about equality and fairness, is there really such a thing? Is there really such a thing such as fairness and equality? And I'm like, no, there really isn't. I mean, and when you see situations like this, let's be honest, it doesn't put a lot of faith and a lot of trust that a lot of people already don't have, especially how people have been handled during this pandemic. I mean, the next topic or the next sort of little subject I want to get into before I get into the main topic is the NHS system or situation, because I've been fortunate in my life, and I'm going to knock on wood right now, that I have not needed to use the NHS system since I was since I was born, and even still it was since I was born, and really I think one time after that. So I've been very fortunate in my lifetime that I have not relied on the NHS system for really anything. No illnesses, anything that's been small, like colds, coughs, you know, the small little things. So I have not been in that position where I've had to rely on the NHS system. Now, recently I've been kind of involved in regards to other situations that's not my own. And it really just highlighted a lot of the just flipping hell. Do you know when people complain about the NHS in terms of waiting times, in terms of their actual care, in terms of let's be honest, people not speaking English, not understanding what you're saying, in terms of just general bedside manner. For me, I always took that with, I'm going to believe you because I've not experienced that. I've not had to use the NHS system. I've not had to do any of that kind of stuff. But when I've had to use it, that pretty much the few times I've had to interact with them, I fully understand exactly what's going on. Now, I'm going to have to be fair and say this. Look, during this time, it is more difficult just because of we know what's being prioritized. I get that. But you know, sometimes there's just certain things which I've experienced in terms of just like when I try to call up to find out ward numbers and things like that, it's almost as if they do me a favor. And the way how they talk to me is like, honest to God, like I'm a piece of you know what. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second, hold on. You guys are meant to serve the people. Now, I appreciate you may have a bad time, you had a bad quarter, but there's situations where I'm like, listen, they aren't telling me anything. I even went into a situation where like I had to prompt the doctor to tell me what was going on, as opposed to them telling me what was going on. And it almost became like a battle of chess to find out what I know as opposed to what they know. I'm like, hold on a second, hold on a second. You're supposed to be you're supposed to be treating us. You're supposed to be telling me what the situation is. This is what I come to you for. But I'm telling you, when I experienced it for myself, and when I saw it for myself, I was like, bro, people talk about, you know, again, this is a great PR. This is a great PR in England. The NHS system, oh, it's so wonderful. It's free. It's this. It's, or I say, sorry, free at the point of service. Let me get that straight before people get confused. Because one thing which I hate is people saying to the world, NHS is free. It's not free. It's never been free. We pay national insurance and our tax on the national insurance. It's free at the point of service or use. That's what it is. But you still have to pay. And this is, again, irrespective of whether you use it or not. But I get it. I get it. I get it. But it's not until you use a system and you realize, man, there's so many things which we can barely criticize the NHS as it is. It always requires funding. Every single manifesto, I'm telling you right now, and now that I'm more conscious about these things because I'm older, every single time I'm always hearing, we need extra funding. We need extra funding. We need extra funding. We need extra funding. It's like a beast. It's like a beast that's ever growing, ever abundant. It's always short staffed. It's always doesn't have the right facilities. There's always this, there's always that. Now, part of it is due to the increasing population, immigration, migration. Part of it's due to an aging population. There are other things at play. I get it. But the bottom line is this: the NHS at the moment, how I see things based on my very, very short experience, is while there are good things, a lot of things need to change. And changing always bad, but again, when it comes to the NHS, it's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, we can't do it. We can't say anything bad about the NHS except for more funding. The only thing that you're pretty much allowed to say about the NHS is more funding, more funding. But I'm like this. I understand that. I get it. Cool. But this is the honest to God truth. I'm telling you, the NHS. While I'm not saying this, there are worse things out there. But if it was that great, why aren't other nations replicating what we have? I mean, we always talk about how great it is, and it's the best in the world. But yet, how many nations actually replicate what we have? I'm pretty much sure no other nation does. Every nation has a mixture of some private healthcare mixed with some social healthcare, if you like, where again it's taxed because they know exactly the burden it costs on the government and also the constraints that it has. But that's kind of like, and when it comes to the NHS, my brief interactions with it, I'm praying to God, other than other things like natural, like childcare, childbirth, and stuff like that. I'm praying to God that it stays that way. But boy, Fiona, yeah, absolutely. I've been researching some private healthcare, man, because I'm telling you, what I witnessed and what I experienced, and one of the things I saw, I'm like, I just don't. One thing which I don't want to play with, and this is going to get into this whole diversity piece as well, is I don't play with my health, and I never understand why people want to play with your health too. So all these things which I hear about, oh, we should get people like this. There are certain industries I don't care. Military is one, health doctors, healthcare is another one. I don't. There's certain things I just don't care about. I just want. I want someone to diagnose me, treat me well, and have a good bedside manner. Everything else I don't care about. So there's a lot of things which go on, which I believe hinder progress in areas which you can't play with. You just can't play with, and your health is one of them. You need to have somebody who can understand the language you're speaking, someone who can articulate the language or understand and articulate perfectly what the problem is, because you're gonna be screwed. So as good as someone may be conceptually and be good on test taking, if someone can't understand what you're saying, what's the difference does it make? So yeah, definitely. I'm definitely gonna be going private as best as I can do. Because even with private, it's like when it comes to A&E, that's still by the NHS. So when it comes to A&E, that's not, it's there's no private A&E situation, but it's just a case of NHS is the way you have to go to. Yeah. That's right. That's right. And that's what because I want to do my research. It's like, yeah, A&E, it's just a case of man. But yeah, and also, Missy, it depends on where you are as well when it comes to how you're being attended to. And this is the problem. It depends. Whereas in other nations, there's a strict rule about how many minutes you should be attended to, especially when it comes to ambulances. There are a lot of situations there. I mean, I read a news story in which it was a woman who was complaining. I say complaining. She was couldn't breathe. She was having issues breathing, and it took the ambulance an hour to get out to her, and she died because the ambulance took too long, and they were only around the corner from a hospital, an A&E hospital, but she couldn't walk to get there, so they had to call the hospital, the ambulance. And the son called about 3 times saying she's can't breathe, she can't breathe, and all this kind of other stuff. And unfortunately, by the time they actually got there, it was too late. Whereas had they got there sooner, of course, I'm praying, I'm hoping that she would have made it, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Now I know this isn't all of it. I know again, got to be fair, that's not always the case, but there's too many stories I hear. There's too many stories for my liking that I hear from a service which is supposed to help us, in which just makes me think, should we be rethinking what we're doing, as opposed to saying more money, more money, more money? Because if that was the problem, or if that was the case, then surely these things won't be happening. But it is what it is. But I just want to say what's up to everyone in the chat. Fiona, how's it going? Appreciate you being here. Diogo, greetings. Welcome back. Eunice Osman, what's up? Do you know what? I think a lot of people are resorting to that kind of stuff, in which they've had to self-diagnose themselves because they just don't trust. And that's the thing which you just have to, if you can't trust these people who are taking care of you, then there's a massive, massive problem with that. There's a lot of things which, yeah, it's frightening. It's very frightening because again, health is something which, it's not until you don't have it is where you really, really pay the utmost respect for it. So right now I'm a little bit lax with certain things because I've not had to, I've not had the privilege of using it often. But when you do, you're like, geez, you just realize health is wealth, man. I mean, we talk about finances, we talk about getting money and making sure that you become the top this and top that. And I don't even think that's a bad thing. But let me tell you something right now, man. Health, boy, I'm telling you, Health is the ultimate wealth. There's no getting around that. So as best as you can do. I know some people have just unfortunate situations that they stumble into. It's not their fault. But I'm telling you, man, as I get older right now, man, health is one number one things which I'm like, I need to make sure I am hot on, especially as you're getting older. Jeez, when you're younger, it ain't too much of an issue, but when you get older, boy. But yeah, definitely. When it comes to these situations, the NHS is a sacred cow, man. You can't. Not a lot of people seem to want to say anything other than the same old, same old, same old. And but yeah, let's get on to sort of the sort of the main topic, the main conversation, which I wanted to bring this live stream. And I use Jordan Peterson in the topic, but this applies to really anyone, because I've been following a little bit of other YouTubers on the lesser known level as Jordan Peterson, and really the what's the word? What I got from it, the message I took from it is this. People, as much as people always try and say that they're about accountability, responsibility, and all that kind of other stuff, I've realized that people are the biggest hypocrites I have known to mankind. And I'm going to use Jordan Peterson as a classic example, because he's always been pinned up as almost a manosphere or red pill guru because of the things that he used to talk. Now, he did have some issues, I'm not going to lie, with MGTOW and a lot of them, because he went against some of their teachings, which he then backtracked, and now he was his friend again. But one thing I've always realized is, because he went on the Roommates podcast, for anyone who doesn't know this, and he had a conversation, and as you know, their talking points, the conversation is about who's at fault. Now, Jordan Peterson gave his take, and a lot of the guys did not like this take. And it's the same when it comes to the women. When women are talking about how, horrible guys are, and you have these YouTubers who talk about how this and that, and then all of a sudden, the moment you as a female then try and say, we should be accountable for this, the moment a guy will say, hold on, guys, we need to be accountable for this, you watch the actual followers, you watch their reactions, you watch what they do, you watch what they say, and that tells you everything about those kind of people, which is why I'm going to say this. In my short reign of YouTube, in my short range of just understanding things, people really, they only listen to the message that they want to hear. It's like a church. I did a live stream about the Red Pill Church and how I compared Red Pill to the church. And this extends not just to this, but to everything in life. And that's why I put, is it the message or the messenger? Because people will forgive all your sins as long as you preach a message that they want to hear. Let me say that again. People will completely not only forgive your past sins, they will forgive your current sins, your future sins, every sin that you do in the future. Pretty much, let's be fair. There'll probably be a couple of things which they won't agree with, but people will overlook, forgive, not care, explain away everything that you do as long as you preach a message that they want to hear. That's the kind of takeaway that I have when it comes to Jordan Peterson, when it comes to any one of these content creators, whether it be on the woman's side, the guy side, it doesn't even matter who it is. Again, there's another content creator which I saw, which he got into a bit of a beef because it was almost like a Derek Jackson 2.0. But even Derek Jackson, he's a classic example. People really, the only reason why a lot of these people, they get what they call, I wouldn't even call them exposed, because a lot of these things are already known. This is another thing as well. And this is when I talked about the whole Fresh and Fit situation, where I was like, the only reason why people cared, it's not because of what he was, it's because of who he went up against. I'm like, he's been doing this all the way across. I'm like, it never makes any sense to me sometimes. Most people only follow people for the message that they preach. They don't really care about who the messenger is, because a lot of these things are already known. There's so many things which I've seen where content creators have been, I've been exposed. They've been said, he does this, they do that. And people don't care. They really don't care, because as long as they preach a message that they want to hear, they'll forgive everything. And people will then say, well, what does it matter? Because this is another, for me, a gaslighting tactic in which they'll say, well, what does it matter what this person does in their private life? What does it matter what this person does? As long as they're preaching this, as long as they're preaching that. And I say to myself, well, hold on a second. Because I could agree with that depending on the message. But a lot of these messages that these guys are preaching are about life. What's the word? Life virtues, life goals, how you should act. Now, once your message and you as an individual conflict with that, there needs to be a kind of bit of, is this person actually practicing what they preach? Because there's a word we call for that. It's called hypocrites. Now, again, we're all human. So I can't be like oh, you have to be 100% this. We're human. I get all of it. But the reason why it becomes such a big issue, or the reason why I look at it and think, is because a lot of these things were already there and to be seen. So do you know when all these people come out like Dr. Umar Johnson? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, he's been doing this. He's always been like this. It's only now you realize, because it's only now it's gotten to a stage now where he's not even really followed through on the message he's preached after all these years. So all of a sudden, now it's a case of, oh snap, he's not the right guy, or oh snap, he's not this. I'm like, well, hold on a second. What were you following? Who were you following? How were you following that person? And I know what it was, because people like that were preaching the message that they wanted to hear. Now, I'm not to say that the message is always wrong, but you have to have a little bit of an asterisk, say, okay, look, you do need to hold people accountable. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Again, just like the church as well, there are a lot of people I see who they won't go to a certain church because that preacher doesn't preach what they want to hear, or if they preach something which actually convicts their spirit. So let's say, for example, they preach about out of wedlock children, childbirth, or if they preach don't do fornication, or if they preach adultery. A lot of people are like, I don't want to hear that message, and they'll leave church. Or depending on how big the church is and how it operates, they would actually force the preacher to back down. And it's the same with the content creators. I've seen content creators who have backed down from their message of being more fair and balanced because their followers, their parishioners, the ones who tip them on their super chats, give them their cash apps, the one who make them famous, they tell them, look, we don't hear that message. We come here for that message. We don't hear anything that convicts our spirit. We want to hear something that convicts their spirit. And that's what it always comes down to. So when I saw this Jordan Peterson stuff, it was a podcast which happened, I think it was a couple of weeks ago now. So it's not like it was yesterday. But I thought to myself, oh my days, I just wanted to take this opportunity just to really go over this whole situation of you be the hero yesterday, or you be the hero today. You preach something, the next day you'll be a villain. You'll be a villain the one day, you'll be a hero the next day. All it comes down to is exactly what it is that you're saying. And that's why sometimes I don't take a lot of these things too much to heart, I would say. But also I'm very, very careful as to who I listen to and what I take from that person. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to tell you this. I always find I always want to know what people feel like when they've actually really gone hell for leather for a content creator. And then they've realized, flipping out, they're everything that they've preached against. They're everything that they've preached against. Now, does that negate the validity of the message? Someone would say, I'm sorry. For me, it does. I know it sounds ridiculous. You're thinking, oh, hold on a second. 2 + 2 = 4, right? What does it matter? Or, 1 + 1 = 2. Therefore, surely the message actually is bigger than a human being. Now, again, that is actually, it seems like a fair point. 1 + 1 = 2, regardless of whether somebody who failed mathematics says so, or whether somebody who's, Edward Einstein or Pythagoras says it. So they are right. 1 + 1 = 2. 2 + 2 = 4. So this is why I say it depends on what you listen to. But we're talking about people who are trying to get you to follow their advice. If somebody tries to tell you to do this and they can't follow their own advice, it kind of negates a lot of what they're saying. I don't know. Is it just me? I don't know. But for me, a lot of times when they talk about certain morality issues, a lot of times we expect these people, again, because we see them in higher esteem, to hold a higher position in life. Again, just like when it comes to the church, not everyone is built to be a certain role of that church. When you become elevated to, let's say, a pastor, a preacher, a reverend, a deacon, you become a role model. That's what you become. So a lot of these influencers, whether they like it or not, when they get to a certain stage, they become a role model. So not only are they buying into your words, they're buying into you as the individual. This is why people actually follow people. People think it's just about the message. That's not true, because there are a lot of people who have a lot of, for me, more fantastic messages, but people don't buy into them. People buy into people. And when that's the case, you now elevate yourself to a role model, which means people are looking at not what you say, but what you do. That's why when it comes to a lot of influencers, they flaunt their lifestyle. There's a reason why, because they understand the impression that it leaves on people. Because again, people are impressionable. So when it comes to situations like that, for me, it's more to it than saying, but the message is valid. It's more to it than saying, what I just said, 1 + 1 = 2. Again, if it was simple mathematics, I would agree with you, but this isn't the case. These people are preaching all these words which they try and basically hold your feet to the fire to, which, fine, I don't disagree with that. If you want people to be accountable, cool. If you want people to be responsible, cool. But it seems hypocritical and it devalues your message, in my view. If you're that same person preaching Don't sleep with single mothers. You're sleeping with a single mother. Don't do this. You're doing that. Don't sleep with guys who ain't shit. You're sleeping with guys who ain't shit. That devalues your message because you have pretty much said that even what I've just said there don't mean anything. And it devalues what other people, it just messes up a lot of your image, your message. But then again, like I keep saying, a lot of people don't even care. A lot of people don't care because as long as you keep preaching that message, what they want to hear, you know what people say? You have all these stands, these fans, they come out the woodworks. Whenever somebody says, look, this person's preaching this, but yet they're doing this, they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. They'll go through like so many, what's it called? The 5 stages of grief or like anger denial. They'll deny everything first. Like, where's the proof? They get angry with you. They'll start saying that you're a simp, you're a bedwench, whatever word that they want to use to try and devalue what you're saying. And I'm just like, look, take it for what you want. But when it really, 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 really blows up in their face, which it becomes basically, you can't even say nothing to it. Again, Derek Jackson, he's a classic example. At the end of the day, this was not unknown to people about who he was. But again, it was not like, I'll say in the news as often, it was quite hush hush. Once it got out there in such a way and it got exposed, he had to address it. And then it's like, oh, now you have to address that as an individual. But here's the thing. If you go back to his channel, again, how these things, they die down, they die down, they die down, they die down. And guess what happens? They're pretty much back to where they were because people don't care about what you do in your life. They only care about the message. And I'm like, flipping heck. I'm like, I always was in the impression that it's more to do with, well, both. Let's just keep it real. Depending what you're talking about, it's not just about the message. It's about the messenger who preaches the message. And this is why I'll say this and I'll continue to say this. And, you know, whoever wants to listen to this, that's fine. If it means not listen to me, because this kind of gets me, I'll agree with that. But please, please, please take with a pinch of salt what these influencers are telling you because they have an agenda. Everyone has an agenda in life. I have an agenda. They have an agenda. A lot of times these agendas are, especially when you get into the YouTube game or whatever game, algorithm based because they want to make fat money. Everyone wants to make money from what they're doing. At the end of the day, our time that we spend, it's not free. So all these favorite content creators, these influencers, when they do things, it's not free. They have their time. A lot of them, they really sell themselves out by getting all these surgeries so they can have an image that they want to uphold. A lot of them get loans out so they can stunt on Instagram. All these things, all these people do is in order to get that influencer appeal, whether it be that verified blue tick, whatever it is, they're trying to get more viewers. But again, all these influencers are trying to, this is the problem. This is why these guys, they pretty much will sell out to the highest bidder. You see them all the time, they get this and that. That's why for a lot of me, I will say this. I always take a pinch of salt what influencers say. And again, that includes me. So if you want to listen to me, I'm grateful. But even me, we all have agendas. We all have things that we're looking for. The question is that person's agenda on your agenda? And is that person living a lifestyle that you can agree with? If you know it. There's some things it doesn't even matter. If someone's teaching you about makeup and eyelashes, we don't kind of care who they're sleeping with. If somebody's teaching you about how to invest in Forex stock market, you kind of don't care what their personal life. I get that. But there are some situations that people pretty much are giving up their whole entire lives and changing it for content creators who aren't even remotely doing what they told you to do. That's where I have a problem with. That's for me where I would say the messenger is more important than the message, because you can't have messengers who are preaching this message and they are completely going against what they're preaching, and they're shaming you. They're telling you that you ain't this, you ain't that. They're telling you why have you not done this, why have you not done that. That's where I draw the line completely. There's some messages which it has absolutely zero bearing. I get that. But there's some messages I'm just like, no man. That for me, I can't even, once I find out something about that, I can't even listen to anymore. Or if I do, it's only for a bit of entertainment, or it's just to be like, you still on this, but it is what it is. So let me just address the chat before I continue. But yeah, I just want to say, appreciate everyone for being here. Please make sure that you like the stream. Please make sure that you subscribe if you are new. Anti-Socialite Podcast, welcome. How's it going? Yeah. And this is it. It always depends on the message that's being preached. Again, I have zero problem with certain messages in regards to this. There's certain message which it has no bearing to it. But yeah, people pick and choose. People pick and choose. And people like to do this, and then they call themselves holding people accountable. And then when it comes to their own favorite content creator, they'll go hell for leather when it comes to supporting people. and they won't even back down. They're like, oh, I'm riding with this person. And that's what it comes. It becomes a popularity contest rather than a pursuit of truth. And that's a good one. That's a very key one, actually. Let me touch on that. Because another thing which I hate about this stupid social media game is this, and I'm sure you've all realized this, is if somebody has 100,000 subscribers and they say something, that becomes more, or to say, it becomes more truthful than somebody who says something who has 10,000 subscribers. So this is how the game is played. It happens on Twitter all the time. You ever realize this, that what people do on Twitter is, if you have a difference of opinion, which may be true, but you have less subscribers, you get drowned out by somebody who has a bigger platform, because that person's platform, they know their followers are pretty much going to hang on to their every word, even if what they're saying is not true. And what happens is, because it's a popularity contest, which again, it's down to how people buy into the person in terms of if they're entertaining, if they sound right, if they're from a certain place, whatever it may be, then all it comes is, instead of actually, is what that person said truthful, even though that person has only 10,000 subscribers or only less than 1,000 subscribers, it then becomes, you clout chasing, or you jealous, or you just trying to do it for the algorithm. It all becomes that angle, as opposed to saying, well, hold on a second, is what that person's saying truthful, even if that person does have less subscribers? Because again, the amount of subscribers that you have isn't directly correlated to whether your message is truthful or not. And this is another thing that people assume. People assume on the social media games that because you have more subscribers, that must mean that your message is truthful. Let me tell you something about this. This game, this YouTube game, this whole game, when we come to certain information, is all about entertainment. Majority of the people tune into these kind of platforms not because they want to be edified, but because they want to be entertained. This is the whole game, what it is right now. If you want your channel to blow, if you want your social media account to be what it is, and if you're a guy now, because if you're a woman, there are other things that you can do. I'm sure you know what that is. You can, show off yourself and all that kind of other stuff. You can get pretty much a good following. But especially as a guy, if you really want to get there, truth is not necessarily the best way to do it. Entertainment is. And people tune into the entertainment, and that is going to the form of gossip. That goes in the form of BSery, goes in the form of beefs, arguments, bickering, either shaming people on their platforms, cussing people out on their platforms, making a show of people on their platforms. People tune into the entertainment. So when people say, well, hold on, this person, she's got this subscribers, he's got that subscribers. A lot of times I'm going to say this. Another sure way of how I don't listen to that person, because subscriber counts is one of those things where I'm just like this. It doesn't tell you the truthfulness of the message. All it means is they've keyed onto an algorithm, they've hit a topic that especially people want to hear, but most importantly, it's because people want the entertainment. And that's exactly what it is. And this is where it comes now. And again, because it's a popularity contest now, and it's not about the message, it's just about how popular you are. So it doesn't matter now once that person's solidified, now that person has that subscriber base, that person becomes so much more powerful. And here's the problem with that. Because that's the case, you've now emboldened those influencers. You've now emboldened their content creators, because you've now told them that what they're doing is acceptable. And the bad thing about the way how this game works now is people copy success. We're all guilty of it. Let's be honest. People copy success. We don't live in a vacuum. We see what's going on. And because people see this is the kind of stuff and these aren't just young people who are subscribed to it. These are grown people who subscribe to the BSery, the chicanery, the mess. And you think to yourself, these are the people who are now have kids. Some of them have grandkids, and they're teaching the youth, this is how you conduct yourself when it comes to conversing with your peer groups, conversing with younger people, conversing with the opposite sex. And again, this is both. This isn't a male or gender thing, male or female thing. This is a both. You see it all the time, everywhere you turn. And again, because they're getting bored and because they have subscribers, it boosts your head, it boosts your mood. You see all these viewers, you see all these super chats. All it does is it creates worse iterations of that, because again, people copy success and people see that, and we all see that. We all see what happens. We have new versions or new iterations of the same thing. And the thing is, it gets worse. You ever realize that when you have these content creators, when it shoots off into different branches, because they create almost sons and daughters of the same, it just gets worse. It just gets worse and worse and worse. And it just reminds me of the fact of I suppose that's why I would say I'm thankful that I'm at this age during this time, because I want to say, being older, you should be able to try and separate the BS from the non-BS. But the problem is, though, and this is where I'm going to say it, maybe not, is because a lot of older people are still subscribing to this madness. And once you subscribe and you watch it and you view it, again, you're the same as the young people who take it to heart. So even though people say, yeah, but I don't take it to heart and I know how to converse, true. But by you just having your presence there, by you viewing it, by you subscribing to it, by you doing it, it has an effect on you, even if you don't think about it. Because I've had a few conversations. I don't know whether anyone else can attest to this in the chat, but I had a conversation, and do you know when you've watched content for a long time, or you've maybe books, movies, magazines, whatever the content is, if it's a specific type of content, what people don't realize is that your whole way of speaking, viewing things, it pretty much changes. And you think you're a normal person. You think, yeah, no, I'm fine. I can handle it. But you know what I've realized? You then become institutionalized. Again, it's like the church. Again, I have to use this as a classic example, because when I used to talk to Christians, and I used to be like this, and I didn't even realize it. When someone would say something to you, there'll be an instant response, which only could have come from a certain type of person, whether it be a Muslim, a Christian, someone from the Hindu faith, because you're institutionalized to respond in a certain way. Now, if you listen to a piece of type of content for a long time, your mind is getting programmed, whether you like it or not, on your subconscious. So you think consciously, oh, no, I know how to handle things. But on the subconscious, your mind is getting programmed. And what happens is, when you interact with something which you could almost say you've been warned, you've been pre-programmed to respond in a certain way, what you don't know is that you consciously say things which I'm like, I know you follow red pill. I know you follow the pink pill. I know you follow this. And it's so interesting when I've spoken to a few people, and I just listen to them. All you have to do is listen to them. And then I realize, you've been institutionalized. And this is the danger when you listen to some of these content creators, just in general. This is the danger of what happens when you listen to certain content creators. And we wonder, and these are grown people now. I mean, we all are subjected to programming. This is why when you have children, you watch your children as to what they watch. There's a reason why we had Watershed, which I think is still around today, where you couldn't have nudity, you couldn't have swearing after, I think it's 9 p.m. because they know kids more than anyone are easily impressionable. But even you as an adult, if you watch something, if you listen to something for a long period of time and you constantly watch it, you cannot help but your mind, your mood, everything about you is changed. There's certain content creators where people get this, we call it the red pill rage, don't we? They get their energy emits from it, in which you can tell exactly who they've been listening to, what they've been listening to, because their whole speech, their whole way of life is completely changed just by listening to these content creators. So it's man, I'm telling you, man, it's really, I'm going to say this. It's very, very, very important that you just understand what you listen to and just test. I'll say test yourself. Test yourself to see exactly what it is that you've come out with or what you've come up with, and see how it lands. Some people don't care. Some people think that's the way it should be. Fine. But a lot of times you realize, I sound just like this person who I said I'll never sound like. It's like all the time when you say, oh, yeah, I'm never going to be like my parents. I'm never going to be like this. And then you realize, flipping heck, there's certain things that you say once you have kids. That's like my parents would say, institutionalized. You get institutionalized. So it's very, very, very important and very, very key when it comes to that sort of stuff. Just be careful who you listen to, because they have their own agendas. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, because a lot of them aren't even practicing what they're preaching, they've got their Lamborghinis off the back of it. They've got their TV deals off the back of it. They've got their book deals off the back of it. They've got what they want in life, which is to be financially successful and to do whatever they want to do. So when it's all said and done, even if they've been exposed, even if they've been called out for the liar, once that's done, let's be honest, they've got what they wanted out of you. They've got your super chats, you've got your donations, they've got their money, and they've set up a situation where, guess what they're going to say? They don't even need YouTube anymore. They don't even need Instagram anymore. They don't even need that, because that's what people are going to be doing. Let's be honest. They can use this as a vehicle to get what they want to get, and then once they get it, boom. The people are the ones who are left in the biggest hole. And that's how I see a lot of these things. And sometimes I'm just like this. I really, really do wish and hope that people do see a lot of these things for what it is and not for what they want it to be. Because I see so many people just defend everyone. I'm just like, I don't know how you can do it. It's too much energy, man. It's just too much energy. I'm telling you, people follow the message more than the messenger. only in certain occasions have I ever seen people say, okay, fine, fine. But really and truly, all I've realized in this game is this: if you preach, if you preach something that someone wants to hear, you're fine. You're their friend. You know, you're one of us. You're our, you're on our side. You can go to the cookout, whatever it may be. It don't even matter. And I'm like, I don't know how people do that. People don't have vetting. People don't vet people nowadays. I'm like, look, I appreciate what you said, but I'm still not 100% going to be on your side because I need to see your proof of your works. That's all it is. Again, going back to the Bible, it's not just about your message. It's about, what to say, your fruits. And that's your lifestyle. But that's another thing altogether. But let me address the chat again. Appreciate everyone for tuning in on this Sunday Remembrance Day. I hope everyone's having a good Sunday. Again, this is just going to be a nice chilled out session. This ain't going to be anything too crazy. I'm not planning this to be a long stream by any stretch of the imagination. But I just really wanted to sort of just get this off my chest in a little way, just to say, you know, I find a lot more old, and this is grown people. These aren't even young people. A lot more grown people act like this, and that kind of kills me about the mental maturity of a lot of people who are my age and older. I'm like, come on now. I don't know, but I think a lot of people is hurt. I think a lot of people are hurt, and when it comes to these types of spaces, people do go to spaces that, you know, welcome them, number one, and preach what they want to say. We're all human. I get it. And but it comes to a stage where I'm like, are you doing it just to vent? Because I think what people want to do, and this is just the truth, is they want their content creators to be a mouthpiece for their frustrations. They want their content creators to be a mouthpiece for the situation that they've gone through, and almost to be like a soundboard in which they can completely vent. They can, you know, cuss someone out. They can do the things that they can't do in a maybe a global manner, whatever it may be. And this is what happens. I think a lot of people, when it comes to these sort of things, that's what they want the content creators for. And when their content creators deviate from that message, again, Jordan Peterson being an example, but there are other examples as well. And because Jordan Peterson is, for me, kind of I'll say a fair guy in regards to what he says, and he tries to keep it factual and tries to keep everything to the point. But the moment he does that and it's against kind of what you want him for, then it's a case of, oh my days, you're a traitor. You see, you take that personally. I've seen this, and this is what happens when people no longer become your mouthpiece. They no longer become your vehicle for you to vent your frustrations. Now they become a traitor. Now they become, I thought you're one of us, and they take it with such venom that now beforehand it was all about the message. Now it's about everything else. Now they go into their person's past life, past history, where beforehand they didn't care about that. Beforehand they had no business going into it. Beforehand they were completely on that person's side if anyone said anything negative, because they wanted that person to be their mouthpiece. That's what it is. And this is what I realized when it comes to content creators, because again, you know, we're human. We go through our emotions. We get hurt from people, loved ones, relationships. We get all that. And then what happens, instead of people dealing with it appropriately, how they deal with it is they come on these spaces and they want you as that social media influencer to be that person. So this is why, again, you see these people, I see people cheering people on, all this kind of other stuff. And I'm like, bro, it's not healthy, man. This is not healthy. And we talk about the effects of feminism. So feminism is one of the things that we talk about a lot, isn't it? And, you know, I don't disagree with a lot of things that has a negative effect on just, you know, the gender roles as we see it right now. Some things I'm like, you know, I don't have a problem with it. But we talk about cause and effect. I'm like, well, it's the same thing here. I'll be interested to see what the effect of a lot of these spaces are going to have on you know, what we call the real world. Because we always say, you know, this is only social media. This is only social media. And I'm just like, bro, a lot of things that happen on social media which changes policies or affects policies. It's a lot more powerful beast than we give it credit for. So I'll be so interested to see what the backlash is, because we always hear about, you know, marriages is an all-time low, or marriage rates are decreasing. We hear a lot of things. So I'll be interested to see exactly when it comes to these spaces, what the impacts are going to be. So, but yeah, I'm telling you, man, people use content creators as proxies for their own feelings and own emotions. And again, if you go against that, man, you're a traitor. You're just a traitor. So it's just crazy. Let me see what's up to the chat. Yeah, in the Bible. Yeah, 100%. And it may have to be another live stream on this in regards to hypocrisy, and how we take that, because you're right. I mean, we don't address it at all. And again, a lot of times it's because we don't care about hypocrisy until it's somebody who we don't like. So as long as somebody who you like and somebody preaches exactly what you want, we really, really, really don't care about it. It's just example of um favoritism. So it's one of the things which kills me all the time. And I get it. You want to be also fair, and because forgiveness is a trait as well. It's not as if we can't understand that people are human as well. So it's not as if I'm saying you're not human, you don't make mistakes. That is true. I'm not saying that you have to be, you've got to be 100% walking the line, but there are situations where you just have to call yourself out and say, you know what, let me just back up from this, or let me just be fair and balanced. But a lot of these content creators, because again, it's entertainment, because again, it's, as you said, drama, chaos, beefing, inflammatory statements, because it drives views, it's almost like they don't even see that. It's almost like they don't even see that. These guys themselves aren't even living the life that they're living. Um, so it's like it becomes harder to forgive somebody because they don't even show the same type of forgiveness to the people they're talking to. This is the thing what kills me the most, because I do believe that people will make mistakes here, there, and everywhere. But these content creators will try and act as if you can't make any of these mistakes, and if you do, you are a horrible human being. You're this, you're that, you're that, and not even just mistakes, fuck ups. Let me get it right, because a mistake is getting someone's name wrong. When it comes to sleep with somebody without no protection, you're getting pregnant, you do a mess. That's a fuck up. That ain't a mistake. That's a fuck up. But people, they will complete, these content creators will act as if they're the worst thing since sliced bread, and they will do the exact same thing. I'm just like, bro, this is where it just kills me. And that is where people have less of a forgiving tone because of how you act to these people. It's just like, if I give you the exact same energy like you give someone else, who would stand sometimes? Who would stand? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, that's like what it is. That's like what it is. It drives views, and it becomes a drug. A lot of these things now become a drug because you're chasing the algorithm, you're chasing the views, you're chasing the subscriber counts, you're chasing that, 100K, or starts with 1K. Then from 1K, it starts 10K, 10K to 50K, 50K to 100K. You want to get that plaque. You want to get, 500K, another plaque, then a million. You want to get that plaque. It's a drug, man. It's a drug. And a lot of these content creators, man, they can't even see themselves because they're chasing that high. They're chasing that drug. And it's mad crazy, man. It's mad crazy. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Critical thinking is lacking. And I'd even say even the ability to critically think is lacking as well. Because we say this and we use these words, and obviously critical race theory, critical thinking. People are going to say, "Oh, no, 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 no." But yeah, I agree, man. I agree. It's a lot of introspection as well. Critical thinking, introspection, a lot of things that really, 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 really does not get the attention that it deserves until after the fact. It's always after the fact, isn't it? Where these things come, where it raises head, where now they're gonna, be introspective. Now they're gonna try and use their critical thinking. I'm like, critical thinking usually comes beforehand, but it is what it is. It is what it is. On this one, Fiona, because I agree with you here. I agree. And there probably needs to be a topic, because I think people get confused here, because people are entitled to change their minds, opinions, and outlook. I have. It's just the evolution of who you are as an individual. But what I think people then try and say that you have become is a flip flopper. Now, I kind of want to, I probably have to do this as a separate, well, maybe not. I might try and address this now, but it might have to be a separate one, in which how do people determine somebody who's evolved from where they were as to opposed to somebody who's just flip flopping? Because those two things do exist heavy when it comes to content creators, because you have content creators who they say they change their minds and opinions, but they really haven't. They're just flip flopping because, again, it's the if it's a populist viewpoint, if it's I don't know, to help them so they don't lose any of their followers. So a lot of times when it comes to people flip flop all the time, as opposed to people who, generally speaking, they have changed their minds, or they've mellowed out, or they've evolved their viewpoints to the point now where people don't actually take them seriously at all. So you are right. You are right. And I think we actually don't like to see that in our content creators as well. So what we do is that we sometimes pin people to their previous viewpoints if they can't change. And even when content creators have said they've changed, it doesn't matter. How they've seen you, how they've subscribed to you, how they've engaged with you first. That's how a lot of people will see you forever. It's just unfortunate, but it's truth. There's some situations where I know in my situation, if I posted a video that talks about something, I'll give an example. on my channel, I did a video where I praised Lewis Hamilton. I said that he was the greatest ever Formula One driver ever, in my humble opinion, based on his stats. I think I almost said that he's probably the greatest ever British sportsman, which I still hold to be true, but there could be debate just based on the nature of Formula One. Now, people like that video. I did another video in which I criticized Lewis Hamilton, not for his driving skills or his driving ability. It was because of his personal viewpoints, in which he was talking about how he was for taking down of racist statues. He was for this, for that, but yet he accepted a knighthood, which, depending on what you believe or how he comes across, he should no way near be taken on. Because if anything resembles a racist statue, a racist emblem, it's the empire. I mean, it's in the word empire. Now, we all know how the British Empire came to be. A lot of it was down to colonialism. Of course, a lot of it was down to, let's be honest, they had Industrial Revolution, a lot of their intelligent minds. But let's be honest, a lot of the negative things that we talk about the empire, it comes from a lot of these things which he was against. So I was like this, look, you could be the greatest driver in the world, but let's just call a spade a spade. That kind of screams of hypocrisy. But I go, oh my God, you had a video saying that this, you had a video saying that. I'm like, I'm not flip-flopping. I'm actually keeping it to the topic, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter. So I'm always interested in when people talk about flip-floppers and evolving your content. And sometimes a lot of it, again, is because they're preaching a message that they don't like. But yeah, people are definitely entitled to change their minds. But it's just crazy. It's crazy. So I don't know. Make of that as you wish. But I still stand by everything that I've said. That's the thing. I stand it by it. And I've still got it up right now so you can look at it for yourself. Yeah. If a content creator says what you want to hear, they can do no wrong. Everything says valid. Yeah. And that's it. That is it. And this is what kills me with these content creators, because people beforehand act as if a lot of these things that they're exposing are like new news. I'm like, these aren't even new news, but they hold on to it because a lot of them, they want to wait until you say something that they don't like. This is another thing why I'm going to say this. I'll always be conscious when people try, when people have their clicks. And I'm like this, dude, never, always be careful about who you partner up with, who you click up with. Just in life, this is just a life lesson I've learned. Always be careful about who you have a click with, who you interact with, who you are, who's in your circle, or what circle you become a part of, because a lot of people, they actually don't really like you that well. They just tolerate you. And then when it comes to a situation where you say something that they don't like, all these things that they were holding on to, because at the end of the day, the circle likes you, they're not going to reveal until, guess what? You say something that the circle doesn't like. And then once you're now saying something that you're not part, once you're not, you almost become out of the clique. Now all this crap comes out of the woodworks, which have been existing since time. I mean, there's so many things which I've seen about this person exposed, that person exposed. I'm like, bro, that's been known for years. But again, a lot of people, guess what it is? Like you said, wants to say what they want to hear. Cool. But the moment you say something they don't like, they dig it up. But a lot of times it's not even dug up. It's already there in plain sight. It's just a lot of times either A, they don't care about it because you're saying what you want to, or B, some people are even more, what's the word? Insidious. They wait until the right moment presents itself. And that's another thing. A lot of people are just waiting for the time it presents itself. Because we talk about the Me Too movement, we talk about, BLM. A lot of times people, these stories that have come out aren't new stories. A lot of these racist stories, a lot of these sex charges, these aren't new stories. But a lot of times, some things are rightfully so. But what I'm trying to say is people wait for the opportune moment to reveal things because there's a climate for it. There's a time for it where it's acceptable. Everyone can come out the woodwork and say what they want to say. So I've always realized this, that a lot of people, be careful who you click up with. Be careful who you become a part of, whatever clique, whatever clan, crew, whatever it is that you become a part of. Just be careful. Just be careful, because not everyone has your best interest at heart. So just be careful about, who you come up with, because that's just, bro, that can just be crazy. But yeah, that's one thing I've learned in my short space on this earth. Just be careful, man. Be careful. So as I learn nowadays, people don't value education. I'll say this about education. When it comes to standards, I think people have seen education for what it is in the West. So over here, I will say this, and I was on this. I was on this for a lot. Education is good, but it's not the be all end all of civilization, or it's not the be all end all of how you're gonna get on in life. And the reason why I say that is because it was under like Tony Blair's over here, under Tony Blair's movement, in which he was pretty much forcing everybody to get degrees. So if anyone remembers the Tony Blair initiative, where he wanted pretty much every man, dog, and child to go to university, and this is where they had all these stupid Mickey Mouse degrees to call it. They still call it to this day. And what took place is you'd have people who work in McDonald's who would have a degree. So you think about that. So because and the reason why that was the case is because they had the education, they had the degree, but guess what? They didn't have the right job. And the reason why is because people can't take away your degree, your education, but know what they can take away from you? Your jobs. So a lot of people nowadays were like, what is the point of me going for all this education system, getting into all this kind of I say debt, but reserve debt until you make a certain amount of money, then you have to repay it back. And then you're going to be working in McDonald's with some next man or next gal who didn't go to university, who didn't do that. So when it comes to education over here, the reason why you could argue it's not as valued is not because we don't value education in the same sort of sense. It's because we kind of seeing where this leads us. If everyone does certain things like the university or this, it just leads to a situation where you have all these people who are completely you could say overqualified, and it shunts out them. It completely de-rigs the market. So there's so many people who, when I used to work in like a call center back in the day, you would have degrees. It's like everyone had a degree, everyone has this. So it's like, so I don't know. And then it's just like you'll see people who they worked straight away and they managed to get on. And this is the next thing as well. You'll have people as well who get higher than you are who don't even have a degree. Like my old boss, he didn't have a degree. There are people who, again, so I think a lot of times when we talk about education, I think it's a case of there's so many different loopholes. There's so many different ways that people see where it's like, you know what? Once I've got here, once I don't have to go to any further education, I'm good. I'm just good. And this is where people have seen a light. Especially nowadays, people are leaving the workforce like crazy. People just they've given up on a lot of things. So, bro, I don't know. So I think a flip-flopper is a person who chases relevance no matter how flawed their reason for changing their mind is, but a person who evolves grows according to truth. Yeah, I agree with that statement. I think that's the case. It's one of those things where, and sometimes I think you can really tell if someone's a flip-flopper because they have no real basis in why they've actually changed their mind. And when you go through their reasoning, I don't think even they themselves know why they've done it. And of course, because if you really dig deep and if they tell you the honest to God truth, they'll tell you they don't actually believe it. They're just doing it because they want to, again, either still be cool with somebody or this and that. And that's what it is. So yeah, somebody who evolves and grows towards truth. And and this is where it is. If somebody can articulate why they've changed their opinion or viewpoint, then yeah, I would agree that that person has evolved. But sometimes I'm like, there's some content creators or some people I'm like, for what it is, just based on how harsh their rhetoric is, I can't believe that you would have evolved. It's like in 5 years' time, if I see a content creator, I'm thinking of a couple right now, and their whole mantra's changed, I'll have a harder time believing it just because of how fervent there have been in regards to this particular type of viewpoint. But yeah, I agree. I agree with that statement. But yeah, hypnotize. Exactly. And again, this is how it always is. Again, we use this whole content creator space. I mean, let's be honest. It's called cancel culture. This is another way of cancel culture. So this is the lower form of cancel culture in a little bit, where once you go against the group, you get ostracized. So this is cancel culture in its entirety. And again, this will happen with all these people like Jordan Peterson. When it happens to all these situations here, where as soon as they said something that they don't like, all of a sudden now it's like, stay in your lane. You don't know what you're talking about. You ain't for us. We don't want to hear from you anymore. You need to stop talking about this. It becomes another form of cancel culture, which you see all the time. You see it when someone says, things aren't as bad as what it be. Oh, what are you saying? You're supposed to be on my side. It's like people really, 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 and again, I've said this earlier in the show, a lot of times because people, they want these, and it's always interesting. They want their content creators to be their voice. They want their content creators or whoever it is, not just content creators, but it'd be artists, it will be football players or athletes, whoever it is in life. People want them to say exactly what they want, and the moment they don't, they'll say, "We don't want to hear from you. You're supposed to be doing this." who am I thinking of right now? I have to use a US example, but Candace Owens has always gone on to say athletes shouldn't be talking, they shouldn't be saying anything because athletes will be on that left wing trope. But she even criticized Kanye West. But the moment when Kanye West said something that she agreed with, you know what she was like? Retweeted it, reposted it. Oh, he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he's talking about. I'm like, hold on a second. About a couple of months ago, you were talking about how you didn't want people like Kanye West and people like that talking about politics because they don't know what they're talking about. Actually, what the translation was, he didn't say something that she agreed with. Therefore, at that point, it's you need to shut up and why are we trusting these kind of people? Why are people listening to this person? But the moment he said something that she agreed with, at that point, it was like, oh, yes, yes. You know, he's exactly the person, the voice that we need. You know, we this is the voice that we want to hear. I'm like, come on now, come on. The moment you go against any group, you get ostracized, and especially if you're part of that group, Jesus, this is where cancel culture comes in. So I just find it just absolutely hilarious when I see certain things where I'm like, man, if you ever do make it big, man, I'm telling you, sometimes that's why I actually respect people who actually don't say a word because it's just sometimes it sounds ridiculous, but it's easier that way sometimes not to say anything as opposed to say something nowadays. And it doesn't matter who you are, it's just whatever side it will be, whether it's left or right. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. But yeah, this is kind of the world that we're living right now. But yeah, when it comes to content creators, influencers as they're called right now, and I hate that word, but it is true. It is true. People are hugely influential nowadays, more than anyone. I mean, people nowadays aren't seeing movie stars in the same way now. It's now your favorite social media content creator. They're the new stars right now. So they're the ones who have the power. They're the ones who hold the most amount of respect. They're the ones that people are looking to for information and knowledge from things such as again, financial information to cosmetic products to the truth about the world. I mean, this is another thing as well, which kills me because we talk about COVID and pandemics, and people will be listening to people who have absolutely no medical information at all, no medical history, no medical background about whether or not they should be taking certain drugs. And I'm thinking to myself, hold on a second, hold on. And I'm like, this is how powerful a lot of these influencers are, but because they have a popular maybe have a popular show or because they have so many subscribers, people now pretty much see that as the gospel. And what people do is because they see so many people in the comments agreeing, yeah, I'm not doing this, yeah, I'm not doing that, yeah, I'm not doing that. People are just like, oh, that must mean I'm in the right. Oh, that must mean I'm in the right. This is another thing that we do. I don't know if you realize this, but you know when we try and search for information and we're not too sure on something, and you have certain content creators who would talk on a topic, a lot of times what people do is that they look in the comments and see what people are saying. Now, generally, people pretty much say what they're going to say anyway, but people will be like this. Oh, yeah, I ain't doing this. Oh, yeah, you're right. I ain't doing this. I ain't the sheep. I ain't doing this. Or, oh, why are you doing this? I'm just like, people will just really, really look at the comments in almost to justify whether or not they should do something. And I'm saying to myself, that's not how, bro, seriously. And these are people who don't have any experience in this, no history, no medical information or anything, but yet they believe him. I'm like, bro, you got to use some critical thinking skills. Think of it for yourself and make that decision based on what you want. This is the thing. As long as you make a decision based on what you want, but people want that confirmation, they want that validation, but they're looking at it in all the wrong places. All the wrong places. So it's just madness. It's just complete madness when I hear certain things. But yeah, influencers, it is, I hate that word, but it is 100% true. People are hugely influential on so many things. So be mindful, people. Be extremely mindful about who you listen to, what you listen to, all that kind of good stuff. I'm not saying not to listen to it. Do what you want to do. You're human beings, grown ass people, but just be mindful, man. Just be mindful. Because at the end of the day, you know, for certain things, we have one life. So I understand why people are skeptical of certain things. I get it, you know what I mean? But there's certain things I'm like, good grief. Are you only supporting this influencer because they're your mouthpiece? Or are you actually supporting influencers because what they're saying or what they're living is actually true? So you make your mind of that, and that's how it's going to be. But that's kind of really what I wanted to sort of cover in this live stream. Again, I didn't want it to be anything too long. I just wanted to sort of say this and say what's up to everybody. So I appreciate you all for tuning in. But there's one last thing I wanted to sort of tackle, which yeah, it's way off topic. It's way off topic. But yeah, I'll spend a few minutes on this, and I want to see your viewpoint on this. I was listening to a channel the other day. I don't know if anyone know MC Charm. I'll name drop him. MC Charm, if you listen to this, it's nothing crazy. Don't worry about it. And he was talking about, because he has a channel which he's basically talking about who is and who isn't black. And I was like, okay, cool. Let me see what this is saying, isn't it? And what had actually happened is, let me get my words out right. But the gist of it is, if you pretty much aren't dark skin black, and he hates the word dark skin black, light skin black, because he believes black is only one shade, pretty much, which is Lupita Nyong'o, Viola Davis, Idris Elba, but not just the dark skin, but the features. So if it's not a stereotypical, I use the word stereotypical now, but his viewpoint is, if he wasn't of that ilk in terms of your look, you ain't black. And I was like, what? Anything else, he calls it mixed MGM or some biracial. But anyway, you're not black. And I was like, what? So I was just like, I'm probably gonna do I can see if I can invite him onto the show just to hear it from his viewpoint as to why he believes what he believes, or I might respond to his video if it's still up, because I know he just taking down some of his videos. But yeah, it just got me thinking when we talk about a lot of these stuff about I didn't have to think about, to a certain extent, what is black and if it's really, really, really like that. Because I'm like, surely how I see things is there are definitely black, but we call them different shades and even different phenotypes to a certain extent, where you have some light skin, dark skin. Even in my family, you see quite a few, again, same mother, same father, but you have lighter skin, darker skinned. Even like my granddad, I mean, his brother's like very, very light skinned. He's dark skinned. And it's like, does that not make him black or not? Or are they all mixed? I don't know. But it was such an interesting topic. And again, I appreciate his viewpoint. It's not as if I'm saying, oh, no, he's wrong. I don't agree with it. But yeah, it was just such an interesting viewpoint. And I definitely want to see I'm definitely going to try and cover that topic and that angle, because that's the interesting one. Because there are things which I agree with, which is his point is really, let's not try and accept everything as being black, because once you do that, you devalue yourself. And he brought up the issue of colorism, and he was saying, how is it fair that a non-black woman who's racially ambiguous, and we know they're racially ambiguous because they're not just their complexion but their phenotype, can be in the same weight as a black woman who doesn't have that? That's not fair. So when we talk about black people and black this, can we at least get it right? Can we at least understand that this is what black is, and not what a lot of times is being used as a proxy for black? Now, I know we use mixed in a lot of contexts, but the way how it sounded like, it was even some people who I would consider black who aren't black. I was like, okay. Because again, if you watch his channel, if you look at the examples he uses as black people, I'm telling you, when I mean black, I'm talking about like almost Sudanese black people. I'm talking about dark skinned black people. I was like, okay, I get that they're black, but yeah, I would have different shades of black people or brown people, or whatever you want to call them, in that situation there. So yeah, it's just one of those things which I just want to say on the cards I want to put on there. But I don't know if any of you have any viewpoints on, do you even have a delineation as to what is black, outside of you have to have two black parents, because that's exactly what I thought it was going to be about, but it really wasn't. But I'm going to probably do a live stream on that soon, so heads up on that. But yeah, Mr. Uganda. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what your viewpoint on that is at all. But again, when I was listening to it, because I was always under the impression, when I speak to a lot of like Africans, that they tell me that number one, Africa is very, very diverse, even in places like Nigeria, Ghana, where you're thinking all of them pretty much look the same. But they was telling me you have light skinned tribes, dark skinned tribes, and I thought they were still as black as you guys would, as everyone else would be. But apparently, I don't know if that's the case or not. But yeah, it was just it was mad. It was mad, but it was an interesting topic. So I'm gonna probably cover that in another one. Or sorry, give my viewpoints, and I'll see if I can try and get him onto the show to see if he's happy for a one-on-one. But yeah, that was one thing which I saw this week, which I was just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. That is interesting. But yeah, so I'm going to wrap it up right now because I didn't want us to go on for too long. Again, please make sure that you do like the stream, subscribe if you are new. Let me put this in the chat. So it's MC Charm is his YouTube is his YouTube name, and you should be able to find it when you click on YouTube. And when you find it, you'd be like, yeah, you have a look for it yourself. But yeah, it's very interesting just to hear his viewpoint on what is black. Because again, I agree with that whole notion that, you want to make sure that everyone is, yeah, that you're not devaluing yourself. I think it's a case where his viewpoints, and I don't disagree with this, that he wants to make sure that you're proud of yourself and not making sure that everything is bundled into this, black category. Because that, again, it pushes out real black people. Because if you realize, let's be honest, in society, when you look at a lot of the cover magazines, they're a lighter shade. And I get it. So you want to make sure that it's a fair representation of who you are as an individual, and not just based on maybe what's, let's say, Eurocentrically appealing. So I get it. But just some of the things which I was like, okay, I really would have thought that would have been under the acceptable branch of being black, but I don't think that's the case. But yeah, I can see if I can try and get him on the channel just so I can get his viewpoints, just so I'm not misinterpreting anything I've heard or anything that he said, because you know how these things go. You think one thing and then it's like, oh, let me just speak to the guy. But no, it was very interesting. I just wanted to bring that up anyway. So stay tuned, everyone. Stay tuned. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. I'm going to end the stream right now. Again, hopefully you have a great rest of the Sunday, ready for the Monday working week, if you are working, that is. So thanks everyone for joining. Again, please make sure you like the stream, subscribe if you're new, and listen to it on the playback. And until the next time, I'm out.